Verbs, polite versus dictionary. In Japanese, there are 3 different types of verb. Godan verbs, Ichidan verbs, and irregular verbs. Today we're going to recap the polite forms of verbs and the dictionary forms of verbs. We're going to start with Godan verbs. Now, the dictionary form of a Godan verb comes from the 3rd row of the verb. In this case, this is the verb heru, which is to decrease. This is the dictionary form of the verb. To create the polite form of the verb, we use the 2nd row, heri, and we add mas to create herimasu. This is the polite form of the verb. The polite negative form of the verb also comes from the 2nd row of the verb. And instead of mas at the end, we add masen. This creates herimasen, to not decrease. And this is the polite negative form of the verb. The dictionary negative form of the verb comes from the 1st row, hera, and we add nai to the end of it. And this creates heranai, to not decrease, which is the dictionary negative form of this verb. So, in conclusion, for Godan verbs, to create the polite positive and negative, we use the 2nd row and we add mas for positive and masen for negative. For dictionary polite, we just use the 3rd row of the verb. And for dictionary negative, we use the 1st row and we add nai at the end. For Ichidan verbs, the dictionary form of this verb is fueru, which is to increase. To create the polite form of this verb, we use the 2nd row, for argument's sake, and add mas to make fuemasu. However, the 1st, 2nd, 4th, and 5th rows are exactly the same. This creates our polite form. Our polite negative form is the same base plus masen, which means to not increase. And this is the polite negative form of the verb. Our dictionary negative form comes from the 1st row, for argument's sake, plus nai, which is fuenai. This is to not increase. And this is our dictionary negative form. So for Ichidan verbs, in order to get the polite positive and negative, we use, for argument's sake, the second row and add mas for positive and masen for negative. However, the first, second, fourth and fifth lines are all identical. For the dictionary positive form, we use the third row of the Ichidan verb, which is fueru. And for the dictionary negative form, we use, for argument's sake, the first row and we add nai, which is fuenai, to make the dictionary negative form. And finally, for irregular verbs, to make the dictionary positive, we have the third row of the verb, which in this case is suru, to do. This is the positive dictionary form. To create the polite positive form, we use the second row of the verb and we add mas to make shimasu, to do. This is the polite form of the verb. To create the polite negative form of the verb, we use the second row and we add masen. And this creates the polite negative form of the verb. To create the dictionary negative form of the verb, we use the first row and then we add nai at the end of it. And this becomes shinai. This is the dictionary negative form of the verb. So, for irregular verbs, in order to make the polite positive and negative, we use the second row and we add mas or masen. For the dictionary positive form, we use the third row of the verb. For the dictionary negative form, we use the first row and we add nai at the end of it. Keep an eye out on these sheets, you'll need them for later. Which verbs can you remember? Let me know in the comments below. Thanks for watching and keep your eyes up for anything else Japanese.